Welcome to the Healing Courageously podcast, where we engage in open, honest, and healthy conversation about everything from addiction, abuse, and recovery to marriage, family, and spirituality. We hope you find this podcast helpful. Our goal is that you will find a new way of living as you look closer at yourself in these areas of your life, which will lead to a happier and healthier you. Now here's your host, Randy Boyd.
Greetings and welcome to this episode of Healing Courageously. Today I'm going to be talking about coping mechanisms. You know, these are something that many of us are unaware of that we use on a daily basis. And there's two forms of coping mechanisms. There's either maladaptive or there's constructive coping mechanisms. Like I said, we use these daily, and we use them probably most often. We use them on a subconscious level. It's just something that we've learned over the years, and it's just been kind of ingrained in us, and it's become a norm for us. So most of them are at a subconscious level. A few of them might be conscious, and I only say that because we don't really know or can't really be conscious of them, and we don't know what they are and what we're using. So first of all, what is a coping mechanism? And according to the American Psychological Association, or the APA, a coping mechanism is a conscious or non-conscious adjustment or adaptation that decreases tension and anxiety in a stressful experience or situation. Coping skills can be maladaptive or constructive, ranging from abusing alcohol, drugs, or sex to meditating, praying, or playing a musical instrument. So there's a whole gamut of different coping mechanisms, and I want to talk about a couple of them in this session, a couple maladaptive and a couple constructive coping mechanisms. And for a lot of sexual abuse survivors, rather sexual, physical, emotional, or spiritual abuse. And then just I think for a lot of people in general, these coping mechanisms are things that help us get through life on a day-to-day basis at some point in time. So when we're looking at a maladaptive coping mechanism, according to Thompson et al., and ends with Eldridge, Montgomery, and Gonzalez in 2018, and Thompson et al. In 2010, maladaptive coping skills are not only unhelpful, they negatively impact our mental well-being. Such behavior prevents us from engaging in stressful situations, mentally, physically, or emotionally, and can lead to social isolation. And for survivors of any kind of abuse, or for human beings in general, isolation is not a really good thing. I mean, even the Bible tells us we're not to do life alone. And that's something my wife and I talk about all the time with the people we mentor, the couples we mentor, that, what's a community of people that you're associated with? Are they healthy people? Are they people that are empathetic? Are they people that will be there for you without judgment? And that's the key, without judgment. And I know for many survivors, judgment has been a big part of our past. So it's really hard for us to talk about any kind of abuse to somebody else that's happened to us, to anybody else, because for fear of judgment. And a lot of times that judgment starts when the abuse starts, and it starts right in our own home. I have one client, her mom, I don't want to hear about your problems. There you go with your dramatic problems again. Denying that it even happened. I mean, when it was me, just, don't tell nobody. This is our little secret. A lot of people hear, some really devastating stuff, like, hey, you say anything to anybody? Well, first of all, nobody will believe you. And second of all, I'll come kill your dog. I'll kill your pets. I might even harm your mom or your dad, or burn your house down. So, one of the devastating coping mechanisms that, and I don't know even if I put it in my book, but one of those devastating coping mechanisms is secrets and lies. Because at this young age, or even, preteen, whenever this is happening to you, or for whatever reason, what if anything ever happens to you, and you're told not to say nothing about it, then we're holding on to this dark secret all of our life, and therefore we're living a lie, and we're holding on to this secret. So, and that just starts perpetuating other lies and secrets in our lives, because hey, if I can't talk about this, how can I talk about anything? Or people won't believe me. I mean, I had people tell me, no, that's not your stepfather. It wasn't about the sexual abuse. It was about the physical abuse. So, they go, no, that's not Jack. Jack would never do anything like that to you. And here's the thing that we have to look at about perpetrators of any kind of abuse. So I want you to understand this, that the actual emotional abuse, out of all the things the abuses that I endured for a period of 5 or 6 years with my stepfather and mother, the sexual abuse, the physical abuse, I've worked through all that, and I'm good with that. But the toughest ones are two. One is spiritual abuse, that's pretty bad in and of itself. But the emotional abuse is the thing that took me a really long time to get over, and it still affects me, but not like it used to, right? So that emotional abuse is like, who do you think you are, Randy? Nobody's going to want to listen to you. I mean, I heard those words from my mother, my stepfather, for several people. Get over it. So we learn to keep that secret deep inside of us. But the issue is that the secret, it goes nowhere. All right? The secret goes absolutely nowhere. It stays within us. In fact, most of our emotions are stored right in the center of our core, in our stomach area. And so it's going to stay in there. We might not react on it, but as we get older, I know for myself, all it would take is maybe I've held on to some garbage too long, and somebody says something to me or does something to me one day, and then I have a drink or two. Maybe I don't even have a drink or two, right? And then maybe my wife says something that has nothing to do with anything that I'm upset about or should be upset about, and I just blow my stack, because I've kept that secret, one secret after another. They just keep building up and building up. And pretty soon it's got to go somewhere. So secrets and lies is one of the maladaptive coping mechanisms that we really got to be careful of. Really got to be careful. The best thing that any parent can do, or anybody can do, if somebody comes to you and tells you that they're being abused, don't discount them. Right? And understand this: you can't fix them, and you can't really. The only way you can help them is by listening to them. Be that ear that they need. They just need to tell somebody, and if it's necessary, make sure they get the help that they need. Right? So we don't develop that one negative coping mechanism of secrets and lies, because that just perpetuates over the years. For instance, I started when I was 12 years old. It just kept going until I got in recovery when I was 49, and all these secrets and lies. It's like, dang it. And a lot of the secrets were hurting me more than they were hurting anybody else. So that's one form of a maladaptive coping mechanism. Another one is the escapism, right? So a lot of people, I'm going to go with the survivals of abuse, but then there's, and remember, well, my mom and dad weren't that bad to me. Well, if they were emotionally abusive to you, I want you to step back. And I don't want you to hate your parents. I want you to understand that the only way that we can get through any of this stuff is if we quit lying to ourselves. If we face the truth about what really happened to us at certain times in our life, and then we can work through them. So what happens is that a lot of us are carrying so much pain around on a daily basis because we have no outlet for it. There's been nobody there for us to talk to. So when that happens, right, any little cut or scrape that comes up against us emotionally or physically or spiritually, I mean, we'll lose it. We'll somehow we're going to have to escape that pain because we don't want to feel it. All right, so how do we escape? Drugs, alcohol, pornography, gambling, overeating, workaholics, overworking. I mean, these things are all afflictions. It's always like Dr. Gabor Mate says this. It's not why the addiction, it's why the pain. It's why are people in so much pain? Well, we don't know why a lot of people are in pain because nobody can listen to them. Nobody's been there to listen to them. Nobody's been there that they can talk to and work through this pain and understand that they're okay. These are things that happen to you. They're not who you are. They don't define you. So, we'll escape into different avenues in our life. Like I said, it's abusing drugs, alcohol, cutting, sexual addiction, and overeating are just a few of them. But there's a lot more, a lot of other ways. Now, there is some, and I'll talk about that too in a minute, but there's some positive ways to escape. But still, any kind of escapism isn't healthy. We need to be able to sit there. People call me up all the time, Randy, I don't know what to do with these feelings. I don't know how to deal with this stuff, being uncomfortable like this. And the answer I give them is simple. It's just like, just sit with it. It's not going to hurt you. You're okay. I understand your pain. I'm not denying your pain. It's there. It hurts. Right? We'll get you through it. But you've been masking your pain for so many years. You don't know what it feels like. You don't know how to work through it. So the best advice I can give you at this point in time is like, just sit through it. You're going to be okay. Do a little meditation. Go play with your dog. I'll stay on the phone as long as I have to with you. But you're going to be okay. That pain's not going to kill you, although at times it feels like it will. But let's learn from the pain. What is the pain trying to teach you? And that's another good thing to look at. What is a pain trying to teach you? And another, it really, again, these are still under the maladaptive coping mechanisms, is denial. All right? Denial is how we minimize stuff or self-blame. It's like, it wasn't that bad. It only happened a couple times, it wasn't that bad. Or, it was probably my fault anyways. I'm sure I did something to ask for it. And I had a friend that I went through recovery with, and it was a female, and she's a really, really dear friend. We don't talk a lot, but it's just that kind of friendship. She was like a sister to me in recovery, and she was asking me because she was molested by an uncle who happened to be in a law enforcement, at a high-ranking law enforcement official. And she was saying, that's one of the things that a lot of sexual abuse survivors say is, well, it felt good. Well, of course it felt good because God gave us the physiology that we're developed in us. There's certain things that are going to happen to us that are going to feel good, just like certain things feel bad, right? It's like I told her, I says, I don't care, and this goes for anybody. And I've heard perpetrator stories where, well, he was asking for it. But it's like I told her, I don't care if you're laying there butt naked, and you're just waiting for him. Your legs are wide open. He should have never touched you, never, because he's the adult. He knows better. It doesn't, that is rape. Period. And a lot of Catholic priests. I mean, I've heard different readings and stuff, and people that I've talked to that. They'll say, well, the kid, he provoked me. I mean, he enticed me. He turned me on. It's like, come on. And so the kids will live in this, or even as adults, they deny. They live in a state of denial. Self-blame. My fault. I shouldn't have been there. I knew better. It doesn't matter what the situation was. You're a minor. And the adults just say no, period, in a conversation. But it's it's a devastating maladaptive coping mechanism, because it's never our fault as a minor, never. I don't care if you said, yeah, I liked it. Well, I can't tell how many times it was like the feeling's good. It felt good, but I didn't really care. I didn't ask for it. Sometimes we got to just do what we got to do to survive that moment. So don't ever think that denial or minimizing or self-blame. No, no, don't do that. It's real. It happened, and it wasn't right. And it could be sexual, physical, emotional, or spiritual abuse. There's so many different types. Sexual, I had the gamut of all of them. So it was really devastating for me at the time. But thank God for 7 years of really great therapy with my therapist, Deborah Mines Pearson, and my mentors that I had in both CODA and Alcoholics Anonymous. That, man, they just love me back to life. And they taught me that you're okay, Randy. You're lovable, So those are a couple of the maladaptive coping mechanisms that we can develop. And again, my belief is this: is that God innately gives these to us as not only as coping mechanisms, but also survival skills throughout our life. Because sometimes it's the only way we feel we can survive. Right? Because the feeling is nobody's got my back like myself. Right? Nobody's going to care about me. And so kind of what happens is at a young age, whenever something like that happens to you, you have this inner child inside of you that kind of withdraws. And then as a child, as a teen, an adolescent, you step in front of that inner child to protect them. You kind of become almost like an adult. You grow up really, really fast, all right? Because somebody's got to protect that inner child, because nobody else is going to do it. Nobody will protect it. And people inadvertently, not knowing the pain that we're carrying around and how we're hurt emotionally and spiritually, right? Then like high school coaches, I mean, God bless them for what they do, but man, they can be ruthless on kids. And so can teachers, and so can cousins and uncles, right? But they don't know the pain that we're carrying around. So all some of their what their intentions are is to make us better comments are really hurting us more, right? But we can't say that to them, because then we'll be called, oh, you whiny cat, you're such a sissy. All those things. I mean, it happened to me, and it's happened to a lot of different people. So we just learn to shut up, okay? So then with the constructive mechanisms, and these are ones that are going to be healthy for you. Again, it's still whatever you got to do to protect yourself. And like for me with a constructive, let's talk about the APA says about constructive coping mechanisms. It says that constructive coping strategies are task relevant and action oriented, and are divided into one of three categories. They're either problem focused coping, emotion focused coping, and appraisal focused coping. They rely on realistic assessments of stressors and available coping resources, and their use is associated with better physical and mental health outcomes than the use of other strategies. So these are things that are going to affect you in a positive way. And a couple of them that I use, is I like to surf, and so that was my safe zone. Once I was in the water, nobody could hurt me, nobody could touch me. I love being in the water all day long. I still love the ocean. I love the beach. Unfortunately, I haven't surfed in many, many years. I don't know if I could with 2 hip replacements and a knee replacement. But I still love the ocean. But for me, it was a place to escape. I can remember I'd be out, in the water at Doheny Beach down in Dana Point. And, we'd go down on the weekends, and my mom would take us down there. I'd be out surfing, and I saw her on the beach calling me in. We gotta go. I just acted like I didn't see her. I didn't want to go in. I didn't want to go home. Why would I want to go home to a house that was? I never knew what was going to happen from moment to moment. Who was going to get beat? Who was going to start yelling and cussing? Who's going to? There's just so much in that home that I didn't want to go to. So I would go out there, and I would stay out there during the day, right, until my mom got to the point to where I guess I better go, because otherwise it's going to be worse than staying in the water. I mean, than worse than going home. I can remember 4th of July. We went down. We were able to get down to Salt Creek. This is back in the 70s, and you had to sneak into Salt Creek or have a pass. And it was perfect weather all day, perfect surf. And literally, I only came out of the water for about maybe 15, 20 minutes just to grab something to eat, and then I went right back in. Because it was my safe space. And then in the evening time, I would stay out. So many times I stayed out until after dark. I stayed out as late as I could. And then once I got my driver's license, I stayed out even later. Because I didn't want to go home. It was a safe space. And I enjoyed surfing. I enjoyed being out there. It was like, me and God. Even though I was struggling with God, it was me and God out there. It was me and the universe. Right? It was peaceful. It was quiet. There was no chaos. There was no confusion. It was just me and the elements. Nothing could be better. So it was surfing for me. Was one of them. Another one is I had a dog. Her name was Taffy, and we lived in Dana Point as kids growing up. And back in the 70s, at that time, the hills were just wide open still. There was hardly any homes in there. And so I would grab Taffy and I would take a walk out in the hills, and I had a spot that I could walk to, and it had about a 180-degree view of the ocean. So I would just walk out there, and sit down with Taffy in the foxtails. And when I sat down in the foxtails, a lot of times they're up to my shoulder height, right? And the warm sun on my face and the wind blowing the foxtails, I would just sit there. I don't know for how long. I never really kept track, but I enjoy just being out there. It was just me and my dog. The sunshine and the wind. And again, nobody to harass me. Nobody to give me nobody give me a hard time. None of that stuff. Nothing. So it was a safe place for me to go. It was a safe place for me to be and calm my mind. I guess you could almost say that would be a form of constructive escapism, right? But it was such a peaceful place, both those places, that it's what I needed at that time in my life. And even today, if I go to the beach, my wife and I like to go to Maui, or when we can't go there, we head down to Orange County, and I could just sit on the beach and do nothing. And just, my mind goes blank, completely empty. Or I can go up in the high country and be up in the mountains and the wilderness and just, enjoy that peace and quiet up there. We all, when it comes to escapism, I'm going to elaborate on this a little bit. Yeah, it can be maladaptive, and we have to be careful of that. But the reality is that we all need a place to escape of peace. All right? So escapism isn't always bad. And I'm going to take it a step further. What's your motive for wanting to escape? Okay? Just what's your motive? I'm tired at work. I just got, cool, good, go, escape, get out of here. You got to take care of yourself mentally and emotionally. My poor wife, she just comes home sometimes. She's been through World War IV, right? And all I can do is just let her relax and just plan a trip to get her out of here so she can relax. Sometimes we just need to escape what's going on in our daily lives because it's a grind doing it every day. And that's okay. But if you're doing it to escape, like I was doing it, and a lot of people do it, smoking weed, drinking, sex, all that stuff, right? Then you're going to want to take a look at it. And even if you're, if you're escaping, like, if you're hanging out with your buddies every night at the bar because you just don't want to be around the family, that's not a good way to escape. All right, that's where a good community of people comes into play. It's imperative that you have a good community of friends in your life. Some of the other things you can do that I love to do is well, back then baseball, but that got to the point to where I had no parental support. I had no support whatsoever. And I just got tired of being beat down all the time, and I didn't think I was worth anything, so I gave up baseball. And I loved the game of baseball. I played the guitar back when I was in high school and in church and for the youth group, and I loved it. But I gave that up for many years. You know, I picked it back up as a gift to my sobriety. I think 5 or so years into my sobriety, I picked up the guitar again and took some Spanish guitar lessons from the guy here in La Quinta, Anthony Arizaga. So I picked it back up again. Some of the other ones that you can think about and do is I like to cycle. Right, it's a great way for me to connect with God. It's a great way for me just to clear my mind of whatever's going on. Right, I have great conversations sometimes when I'm struggling. I can have great conversations when I'm struggling with certain things, and have conversations with God. It's a great way to hook up. I have a great bunch of good friends that I ride with. They're great people, and I love them to death. They're like family. And so it's just fun to get out there with these people and fellowship with these guys and have fun, right? Go hiking, go, meditate, play musical instruments, play with a beloved pet, practice yoga, go for a walk on the beach. These are just some examples of constructive coping mechanisms that you can practice in your life. So it's not always easy to go for a walk on the beach if you're living in the mountains or the desert. But if that's what you need to do, then take a drive. Or if you're in the center of in the flyover states of America, then find a lake to go walk along, or go for a walk up in the hills. There's all sorts of different ways that you can take care of yourself, and just start feeling good about yourself and looking all around you. When you get in that kind of environment, you can look all around you, right? And you can be grateful for everything that God's provided for us. The ocean, the ocean is just immensely large. I fish, I've been fishing a lot the last 3 years on the ocean, and you're out. I never realized how big the ocean is, how big the mountains are. Look for everything that you can to be grateful for. Try and start focusing on those rather than focusing on the negative or what happened to you. I mean, one of my comments was, well, what happened to me happened to you. You'd be doing the same thing too. Well, victim. But that's how I was at the time. That's how I felt. Just find things that help you feel safe and at peace. All right? Not that are going to alter your mind, right, with drugs or overeating or alcohol. Those are temporary, right? And they can do more harm than they can good. Because when you come down from any of those types of addictions, drugs, alcohol, overeating, sex, gambling, whatever it is, your issues are still there. And in many cases, they're even worse. Because you've most likely violated someone's trust that you're trying to build back. So how do you overcome these maladaptive ways? And I just went over a list of things that you can do to start overcoming them. Is it going to be easy? Not at first, no. Especially if you're an addict of any kind, because you're going to be walking away from that. You're almost going to be replacing, you're going to find a healthy mechanism, right? And we just got to be careful we don't cross a debt. Do the opposite of what you want to do. You want to get high with the joint or the drink, get high with the beauty that surrounds you outside. Believe me, there's no better high. I never thought I could have as much fun as I'm having in life. Does that mean we don't have problems? No, that's a fallacy. If anybody tells you that, my life has never been as good as it is. But life itself, it's still a challenge. It's still hard. But because I've made changes in my life, positive changes in my life, right? That's why my life is better. Because I have a good community of people around me. Because I have a loving wife that's also walking this road with me. My life has got a lot better. We have laughed harder than we've ever laughed in our entire marriage. It's been an amazing journey. So, a couple things on this journey that you hopefully you're going to engage in one way or the other. Be patient with yourself. Because we have to remember that our life has been ran by these maladaptive coping mechanisms or by these behaviors that have been ingrained in us for 10, 20, 30, 40 years, okay? I mean, let's talk real about this. They're not going to change overnight. All right? It's going to take time. You're replacing, like I say, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years of behavior. You're redoing your neural pathways. We're going 180 degrees the other way. It's going to take time, so be patient with yourself. Be kind to yourself and love yourself. Remember that positive change does not take, positive change is not easy and it takes time. But you have to know that you're worth it. No matter what anybody else tells you, I'm going to tell you right now, you're worth it. You're lovable, you're worthy, and you're worth it. So, are you going to take the challenge to start working on switching maladaptive coping behaviors and replacing them with constructive coping mechanisms? In order to do that, the first thing you need to do is understand and become aware of those maladaptive coping mechanisms. If you're not aware of them, you can't change them. And once you become aware of them, you can't change them by yourself. And that's when you need to reach out, find somebody you can talk to, right? I'm a great person to talk to about all this stuff, non-judgmental, right? I'm a coach, I'm a mentor. You reach out and you find somebody that's going to help you on this journey, because you can't do it by yourself. And it's not always easy. At times it's going to be downright hard. But I promise you, and I guarantee you, it's well worth it, well worth your time. So let me ask you a question. What is a coping mechanism that you are using in your life today? What is a coping mechanism that you are using in your life today? Good or bad? Okay? You can leave your answer in the comments on the podcast, or go to courageoushealers.org /Randy's blog and leave a comment there. I've got a blog also. Well, this is the podcast, but I posted a blog with this very same subject. So you can leave a comment there, or leave a comment right here on Anchor on this podcast. Okay, you can also read more about my book, Healing the Wounded Child Within. Chapter 4 covers these coping mechanisms. All right, and it gets both positive, negative. It talks about it. I mentioned to you up front the different kinds of well, let me find it for you. The three different areas of mechanisms that we look at, how we look at them. You can get my book on Amazon, Healing the Wounded Child Within. It's on Amazon and paperback, Kindle, and on Audible as well. My 30-day devotional, The Wholeness, 30-day devotional, The Wholeness, is also on Amazon. And you can get my 7-day challenge, which goes with the Healing the Wounded Child. You can also get that on Amazon. So I hope this helps you a little bit. I hope it gave you some understanding of some maladaptive or constructive ways that you're walking through life. Okay. And some of those maladaptive, right? They're maladaptive right now, but what I've found with myself and others is that as we go through life, some of those maladaptive ones we're going to have to get rid of. We're going to have to get rid of, period. Some of them, well, they'll become constructive. Just depends on how we use them. Okay? So, thanks for joining me on this episode. I look forward to seeing you on the next episode. Again, also, I do this for you, so I would appreciate any comments you might have, any suggestions for future podcasts. Don't be afraid to shoot me an email, courageoushealers@gmail.com, courageoushealers@gmail.com, or go to either one of my websites. They'll be at the end of they'll be here at the end of this episode. They'll be up on the screen. Just drop me a note, all right? Because this is for you. I will tell you this, that April is Child Abuse Month. So I think next month I'm going to be concentrating on mostly talking about that. All right? So everybody be good to yourself. Be kind to yourself. Right? And I will see you on the next episode. Thanks for joining me.
This has been Healing Courageously with Randy Boyd. We will have a new episode every Monday. Please like us on iTunes or Google Play. If you would like to know more about the services available from Randy, please visit him at changeyourlifestorynow.com. Thank you for spending time with us. We'll see you next week. And remember, if nobody tells you they love you today, Randy does.